Welcome back. It's your favorite podcast with your favorite hosts. Yes, it's Teen It Up with C and B. I believe this is episode 6. I'm not good at math. I think I usually start the show off by saying that every time that I say what episode it is. But we're back. It's another week of sports. So Vladi, how you been? How you been over the last week?
Good. Had a good weekend. Was at a family friend's house on Saturday. They were opening up their pool for the year, so a nice little pool party there. But otherwise, just going to work, watching some sports, and going to the gym. Kind of the usual. What about you? Anything noteworthy? Anything new?
No, man. I didn't do much. I went to a concert Friday night, so I guess I did do something somewhat interesting. I went to the Lumineers show.
Ooh.
Not really someone I listened to that much. I did some prep the days prior and listened to some songs, so I knew some of them, so I could at least kind of like mumble some of the songs because I knew that was familiar with them. But really good live. I didn't realize how popular they were. They're I looked them up on Spotify after, and they get more listens than all the big country guys I listen to. Rhett and Dean and Luke Combs, they get more Spotify listens to that. So I was surprised how popular and packed it was, but I was impressed with them live. They sound very similar to their songs.
Was it a DTE or?
It was at DTE, now called Pine Knob.
It'll always be DTE for our generation.
It's so funny you say that because a parent I was with was no one ever even called it DTE when it was DTE anyways. It was always just Pine Knobs.
That's all based on what generation you came from.
Right.
Yes, for our parents, yeah, it was Pine Knob for.
So I didn't even know that. I didn't even know it was Pine Knob beforehand.
Yep.
So.
But yeah, should we get into the sports?
Let's do it. This is a sports podcast. Might as well talk about some Les Deportes.
Why they pay us big bucks.
Let's start off. We're going to have another final starting on Wednesday, since we've last talked. The Tampa Bay Lightning are going to be moving on to their third straight Stanley Cup final. They're really one of the best teams that we've seen in the 21st century. You could argue they go with, the back-to-back that Crosby's Penguins had in 16 and 17. And then I'm trying to think who else. The Blackhawks won 3 and 4 years, I believe.
Are you talking sustained excellence or a one-time peak?
Sustained excellence from year to year. I know you can talk about the Red Wings.
That's what I was going to say.
The really early 2000 Red Wings, and then there was a lull until 2008. But yeah, I'm talking going to the finals and having a legit chance of winning. Yep. They can move on they'll be the first team to three-peat if they win since the early 80s, 80 to 83 New York Islanders. So the last team to three-peat. So it's been years since that's happened. Over 40 years, that is. So they kind of dominated the last few. They won 4 games in a row after going down 2-0. They just looked like they kind of outclassed them in that they played the game they wanted to play, and the Rangers played the way the Lightning wanted to play. And they've kind of morphed this style of play where it's very it looks like just an experienced team, and that they come ready to play. They play a structured game. They don't give up very many goals. They have one of the best goaltenders in the league. And then they have the stars to score when they need to. They're not scoring these like Colorado has, the other team in the Stanley Cup. They're not scoring these 5-6 goal games, but they're winning these 3-2, 2-0, 4-1, 3-1 games where they just kind of wear down an opponent and just make life. They know they have the talent to score when the time comes. But in the meantime, they just make life on the other team superstars very difficult. And that's what they did to the Rangers. The Rangers, they played tough every game. Every single game was close, mostly because Igor Shesterkin was just as good, if not. Actually, I'm going to not even say if not. He was definitely better than Andrei Vasilevsky in this series. He's going to win the Vezina Award for the league's top goaltender. So he was excellent. He was kind of the only reason this thing even got to 6 games. Obviously they went down 0-2 and had to climb back and win 4 games in a row. Probably the biggest storyline for the Rangers side as they head into the offseason was head coach Gerard Gallant chose to sit or healthy scratch Kaapo Kakko in Game 6. Kaapo was a second overall pick in 2019. He plays on the third line kid line that actually was doing great. I've mentioned them on different podcasts about how they've really contributed and been a really solid third line. They're a large portion, even when they're not generating offense, they're pushing the play in a way that they're a very effective third line. They have a 22-year-old, a 21-year-old in Capo Caco, and then a 20-year-old. So that's why they're called the kid line. But he was healthy, scratched. I thought it was the wrong move. I didn't think they were the problem. Obviously, you lose 3 games in a row, you have to change something. He flipped all the lines. They got dominated in the first period. We're only down. They may not even been down. But he was quick to go back to the lines that he had in the prior games, all playoffs long for that matter. So it was very interesting. He sat him for a fourth line role player who he thought could provide a little more energy. It didn't work out. It was 2-1 loss. Steven Stamkos scored both goals to move on. So moving ahead to the Stanley Cup, the Avalanche are, I wouldn't say heavy favorites, but are definite objective favorites. I believe you can get them on a sports book for around -200 right now to win the series. It's going to be both teams' toughest battle. Both teams. The only question mark and the only reason I can even see the Avs losing this series is the goaltending. Darcy Kemper was injured for a lot of the Western Conference Finals. He's had eye issues the whole playoffs. You don't know what that's going to do to a goalie's problem or mental psyche, that is. So whether he comes back and is able to be, the solid NHL goalie he is, which he was shaky at times throughout the playoffs when he was healthy. And if he can't go, they're going to have a backup in net, which when you play Tampa could cause issues. So I really see that being the only way Colorado even has a chance at losing this. I do think Tampa's experience is going to get this game to at least, or this series that is, to at least 6 games. I just think they're so hard to play against, and that Colorado is going to have an adjusting period to not being able to set the tempo all the time. But overall, they're just a deeper, more explosive team. I mentioned that Tampa was kind of just a wear and tear game. So it's 2 styles of play that we haven't, our 2 ends of the spectrum kind of that we've seen for them for the 2 playoffs. I think it's going to be a great series. It's definitely the 2 best teams. So storylines, you could talk about the Rangers being a bigger market for hockey to help them out. But I think the storylines are there. You got the back-to-back champs against basically a team that's been there every year in the playoffs for the last 5 years and just hasn't been able to get over the hump. They have the best team. They were the best team this year. I think they'll win it all. I do think this is going to go 7. I'm going to take the Avs in 7. And that's my Stanley Cup preview.
That's how does a goalie get eye issues?
He took a stick. So I don't know why they're allowed to do this. Their mask is actually wide enough so they can see that a stick could get in there. So he took a stick to the eye.
That hurts.
Yeah. So he got that in the first round, and then he played all the way up until I want to say game 1 of the Western Cup. So he got through the full second round, and then in the conference final, he came out. He didn't come back he got hurt mid-game, and then he never went back in the rest of the series, and they said it was the eye issue was still bothering him. So.
Sure.
We'll move on to another finals, the NBA. The NBA Clown League. We're going to go into a new segment after this, but since we've last talked, we are currently obviously there's a game going on in about an hour and a half from now because we have to cater to the West Coast. I know this game's in the West Coast, but it's past my bedtime at 9:00. The series is tied at 2 as we await game 5 tonight. Vladi, the Warriors tie it up on Friday.
Yeah. So games 3 and 4 have happened since last week, since we last met. Boston's got a lot of size, a lot of athleticism, making it tough. Golden State really has to play good basketball to be competitive in the games. So game 3, Boston just came out flying. I think they used the energy of the crowd. They just got up and punched Golden State in the head and just said, "Watch this." They were hitting shots. There was hustle. There was rebounding. The defense. It was just a total run over. And then obviously the third quarter Warriors showed up and Steph Curry playing with 4 fouls. So he did pick up a couple of stupid fouls in game 3, which limited him. But you obviously got no choice. It's the finals. Steve Kerr played Curry with 4 fouls, and he mounted an incredible comeback. They might have been down like 15, 18 at one point. Curry brought him all the way back up to the point when they go up by 1.
Right.
They had a timeout. coming out of the timeout, Steph Curry's on the bench, and within 35 seconds, Boston's up by 10 again.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really dumb move by Steve Kerr. I understand you don't want to get him the fifth foul, but you trusted him enough to not get a fifth foul in the first 9 minutes of the third quarter. I don't understand why you don't let him keep going. Yeah,
he also takes out Klay Thompson to start the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think that's part of Klay's usual.
Like that's part of his rotation.
I think that's part of the usual rotation that they run, but
right. But I don't know. In an NBA Finals, you got to run with your guys.
That's true. That's true. And then I think the one thing that was funny was after the game, you had Klay Thompson. I think Steve Kerr as well were crying about the Boston crowd telling Draymond to F himself, which I thought was soft. It was like you want to be like a kind of a flashy showboat team. You got to deal with the fact that people aren't going to like you.
And what do you think they were saying to Kyrie Irving in the first round?
Oh my God.
10 times worse stuff. 10 times worse stuff.
But yeah, so going on to game 4, I thought game 4 was probably the best game of the series so far. Close the entire time. Steph Curry put on an absolute masterclass. I mean, you watch this guy play and it's, oh wow, like it's incredible. You know, Wiggins and Klay had good supplemental roles in game 4. Kevon Looney had probably the biggest impact. So he didn't start. I think they started with Otto Porter to try and generate more offense. But they quickly realized that they just don't have the size without Kevon Looney to match up with Robert Williams, with Al Horford, with Tatum. And so brought Kevon Looney on. He finished with a plus 21 differential. And that was just, I think that was a turning point. So that I think going forward, they're going to have to find a way to play with Draymond Green and Kevon Looney on the court at the same time. It severely limits you offensively because you're effectively playing 3.5 on 5 guys. But you got to do it because you're going to get run over by Robert Williams and the Celtics if you don't have Kevon Looney's size. Other than that, Boston completely imploded at the end. It looked like that kind of young team that hadn't been there, scored 3 points in the final 4 minutes. Not going to win many games like that. And I think Jason Tatum just kind of completely ghosted. But
yeah, speaking of that ghosted, over 26.5 points tonight. I pounded it. That's my lock of the night. I guarantee he gets that. I do think I think the Warriors win tonight and they go up 3-2. But I do think this is going to be another close one. I really do. I actually think the Celtics are a better overall all-around team than the Warriors. The Warriors can just score in bunches and score fast that they're never out of a game.
Yeah. No, I guess I'm gonna preview this best of 3 kind of blitz that we have to end the NBA season. Like I said, you got to continue to find a way to get Looney on the court. You need to get your 20 from Klay. Draymond Green's got to wake up. The one thing I will say to defend him is the plays that he makes, he's not there to drop 15 a night. He's there to play defense and facilitate. So that's the one defense I can have. But other than that,
2 points.
What?
2 points?
Oh, wait, I didn't say. I said the one defense. I didn't say there's many.
Dude, I could go out there in an NBA Finals game and get 2 points.
Okay, all right.
I could go out there, dribble, and get fouled and make 2 free throws. I could. I mean, you play me the whole game. I could do it.
I mean, fair. I would say keep the turnovers low. You're already giving up so many possessions on the offensive glass just because you don't have the size. So can't do that. On Boston's side, like I said, Jason Tatum needs to be better. If you want to get classed into that superstar like ranking with the Stephs, with the LeBrons, with the Kawhis, you can't have your shooting percentage be less than Steph Curry's points per game. That's not okay.
And I feel like we've seen flashes of him be great. We just haven't seen a full game of him take over. Like game 3 was kind of the win in game 3 was Jaylen Brown kind of, especially in the first half. I think he had like 22 in the first half. It was he kind of went for an explosion. Then Tatum was good in support. I want to say he had like 24. I had over 25.5 points for him. It was a tough night. But you're right. He hasn't taken over a game like a upper echelon superstar has to do in the finals.
Yeah, no, other than that, though, just keep driving. So much of that offense is unlocked when Jason Tatum gets into the paint and then can either attack and get foul trouble on the Warriors players or dish it out. They're absolutely lethal shooting the ball when they're open. Can you get 1 or 2 of Horford, Smart, or Derek White showing up and dropping some points? And just defensively, stop sagging on Steph Curry. I mean, like you obviously on the pick and roll, Marcus Smart, don't go under the screen. And if you're the big man, stop dropping. They give Curry about 15 points a night just on free shots, almost like warm-up level where he just steps into a 3. It's not a good plan. And the other thing I'd say is make sure that I think the Celtics should play ahead in the sense that the Warriors are kind of front runners at times in the sense that they get up ahead of you, and then that's when their brilliance goes and the confidence is going, the crowd's into it, the swagger's there. But if you get behind them, I don't really see a lot of fourth quarter comebacks from that team. I think sometimes they'll try when they're that far down, they'll try and cute their way out of it. They start taking the off balance threes, the over your head sky hook passes. And I think they end up making mistakes and they play their way out of games. So just don't get behind. Don't let them run you over. I did have one other couple cool statistics. After 4 games, 16 quarters, and 192 minutes, Golden State leads 422 to 421.
Wow.
It's been incredibly even. And then on top of that, Golden State has won the third quarters in 4 games by 49 points. So on average, they're 12 points better than Boston is in the third quarter. So that's kind of what I had. That's kind of what I had on the NBA Finals. I still think the Warriors will edge it out. I had them from 5 at the beginning, but didn't work out. I think they'll find a way. They're at be 6 and 7. I think the scoring, they got home court back, so I think that's how it ends for me. But
and guess who had him in 7 from the start?
You.
Me.
Good for you.
Darn tootin', baby.
Gotta give you one. But
all right, so game 5 tonight, obviously. So it could be over. I think game 7 would be like what? Thursday, Sunday.
Thursday, Sunday. Oh, that's
Thursday,
NBA's
Sunday.
wet dream, in my opinion. Getting a Sunday night game 7. Oh,
yeah.
Lord. But
you could put that thing. Sunday night is perfect too, because you can put that thing at like 7 or 8 o'clock.
They have it scheduled for 8.
Yeah, like you don't have to put that thing at 9 o'clock like you do on the weekdays, and everyone can watch it from coast to coast.
All right, do you want to talk a little U.S. Open?
Yeah, so one of the 4 weeks that we pay attention in golf is back. We had the PGA a month ago, and we're here to talk about golf again. Golf makes the highlights again. Golf killing it. Controversial, but killing it. So all the live guys are going to be able to play. The betting favorite at plus 900, very low odds. They love him this week, and I'll tell you why I love him, but he's not going to be my pick for the week. Is Rory McIlroy at plus 900. Justin Thomas at plus 1,100 is the second favorite. Obviously, those two went head-to-head last week and both absolutely tore up that golf course in the RBC Canadian Open. Obviously, the courses don't get very hard in Canada. So he won. He shot -6 on the last day, I think. It's in Brookline Country Club in Massachusetts. From what I hear, it's your typical U.S. Open course, and it's long, narrow, and very hard rough. And that if you could stay in the fairway, you're better off, which is usually the case for a U.S. Open, although we've seen long hitters win a lot in the past. John Rahm, Brooks Koepka won a couple years ago. Bryson DeChambeau won 2 years ago, all long hitters that seem to have no problem with the narrow fairways. So my pick for the weekend is Xander Schauffele. He's been in and out of the top 10. I believe he's in it right now. I might be wrong. A guy that is one of the best accuracy drivers on tour. He's also a great approach shot player. And that I think that comes to fruition more in the U.S. Open when from what I saw and read in an article, it's a second shot course. So guys like him, Morikawa is a good ball striker. Those kind of guys are going to really succeed in this course.
Yeah. I went with a similar kind of ball striking guy. I went for the string bean himself, Will Zalatoris. Was looking at a couple of stats. I think he leads the tour in shots gained with it into the approach into the green. And like you said, it's your second shot. Can he find the fairway? And after that, he'll let the natural part of his game take over, set himself up for some possible birdies, and worst case, walk away with a par. And the U.S. Open designs their course to win. They want an even par to win, right? So
right. Yeah.
Anytime you can drop a score, get a birdie, that's huge. And I think having that ball striking ability, like you said, is going to be the key thing. I'm going to go for Will Zalatoris as my pick.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't like it for this reason. I have a hard time picking guys that were like played well in the last major. I think ever since that Tiger era is over, you see guys like there's so many good guys now that it's so hard to compete after you win again. Like the high of winning one major in a season. Like I think that's why we haven't seen a guy win multiple majors in a year since before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
again,
obviously in that playoff for the PGA, I also he's just a little string bean. Bothers me watching him.
Yeah. Well, do we want to debut the new segment?
Let's do it.
All right. So we've got a new segment, which hopefully we can make this a returning feature, but it'll be the clown of the week. We will scour the sports world. We will turn over every stone, and we will find the person, the group of people, the entity, whatever it might be that made an ass of themselves and had a bad week, whether it be on court, on field, or something you're doing off field. That's good. That's going to be our new segment. So you want to give us the first ever clown of the week on the podcast?
Yeah, and I'm actually going to change what I was going to say because I thought of a better one while you were introducing it. I'm going to go with the East Carolina University baseball center fielder and left fielder. You know your names. You know what you did. You're probably crying about it because your season's over after you lost to Texas in the Super Regional.
I don't know what they did, so can you tell me?
So to preface, in a very close game one, so Eastern Carolina has like maybe chest high fences. Like they're probably 4 feet, maybe 5. So pretty short fences. These two clowns of the week run into each other. I don't know if it hits glove and it hits a glove and goes over the wall for a home run.
Oh no.
A ball that was barely on the warning track. It had to have gone probably a good 10 to 12 more feet to be a home run, and they just steered it. Yeah. They graced of God it over the fence.
Wow. That's one of those not top plays that you'd see win so often they got to retire it just because they're like, sorry guys, like no one's gonna beat you.
Right. I'm pretty sure it made number 1 on not top 10. And it made our clowning of the week, which is probably a bigger deal than
that is more important than ESPN's stupid rankings. But I go for Draymond Green. I defended him a little bit earlier in the podcast. However, that's defending his play, not defending the off-court antics. I mean, he talks a lot on his podcast. He talks a lot about his podcast, and he's writing checks that his game isn't cashing. You've got more fouls than points, lots of turnovers. Again, points are not his thing. You play with the 2 greatest shooters of all time, that's fine, but he's passive. There was a couple times I was watching game 4, he's at the rim and he's dumping it off to someone next to him, dropping turnovers because he's afraid to attack the basket. And forget about shooting. That's one of the uglier forms I think I've ever seen. So my clown of the week is Draymond Green.
Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of been a clown in general with his antics in this finals. I don't understand, and maybe it's why he gets under people's skin and is so effective at doing it. I just don't understand how anyone doesn't laugh at him. Like, you're the worst player on the court right now, and you're trying to talk some crap right now. And I just don't understand how you just don't just literally laugh in his face.
I mean, I'm not on the court. I can't help you with that, but
right. I don't think.
Yeah. They wouldn't let me on the court. Am I good enough?
No.
All right.
Thanks, Captain.
Hey. So for this week's debate, after a fiery and passionate debate last week, we decided to tone it down a little bit. Maybe get a little more consensus here, but we went with the biggest draft busts in sports history. So we went the top 5. I had an honorable mention. Where do you want to start? You want to start go 5 down, or how do you want to go?
I didn't necessarily have an order to mine, to be honest.
So
I have one. I have a number 1, and then all the other ones are kind of they were all failures.
Or you want to start with one of your failures? I did have an order. So
okay. So one of my not number 1, I'm just going to name the 4 off that I kind of had in the same spot, is Anthony Bennett.
Okay.
Number 1 overall pick for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he played in the G League.
Yeah.
So dude, he was on a cover of some video game I played, and I remember playing with the Cavs, Kyrie Irving. It was before LeBron got there. It was Kyrie Irving and Anthony Bennett, and they were the worst team in the league, and I used to always play with them. And then I had not heard that game until I did some research for this, or heard his name until I did some research.
Nice.
So I found out he plays in the G League still, or as of 2021, he played in the G League. So, I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
if it's any worse than that.
I also had Anthony Bennett. I had him as my number 5. You go number 1 overall. 2013 was kind of a weak draft. I think you had Giannis at 15, but other than that, it was a combination of nobodies and has-beens. But he played on 4 teams in 4 years, and he averaged 4.4 points and 3.1 rebounds in the NBA. You're never gonna like that out of a draft pick, let alone number 1. So I went with Anthony Bennett, number 5.
Draymond Green numbers. So my next one was, sorry, my Zoom is zooming me. My next one is Greg Oden. Not only did Anthony Bennett play 4 years, Greg Oden played 84 games, which by my math is barely one full season. Obviously, that's mostly due to injury as opposed to like just being bad. And when he came back, like he just wasn't the same player from all those gruesome injuries. But still, injury or not, I mean, 84 games, number 1 overall pick. He was like a phenom at Ohio State. It's like right when I first started watching college basketball or remember watching college basketball. But yeah, he's on my list as a bust.
I went with Greg Oden at number 4 as well. I for me, number 3 and 4 were kind of interchangeable, but I wanted to put Greg Oden a little bit farther down the list just because it was injuries. It wasn't, like you said, bad play. And I think what makes him so much worse is the fact that Kevin Durant was number 2.
Yeah.
That's
That feeds into my next guy because this next guy I don't think necessarily is worthy of a top 5. He's definitely like an all-time bust. But it's who got drafted after him and the fact that it hits so close to home, and that's Darko Milicic. He got drafted after LeBron James, which is already a little pressure in its own. To get drafted after the second best basketball player of all time.
Oh, get out of here.
And then he also got drafted after Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade. I believe Chris Paul was in that draft.
Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh
that's right. Wrong there. Chris. And he played garbage minutes on the championship team and was out of the league by 28. And the Pistons haven't done anything since 2004.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that. They made the Eastern Conference Finals every year until 2008. They just couldn't get over the hump. Fair enough. Good to know. I have Darko on my list, but he's a little bit higher up. For number 3, I went with Ryan Leaf. He was quarterback with Peyton Manning. He was compared to Peyton Manning. He was kind of that 1-2 or 1A, 1B punch with Peyton, and I think it was 1998. And Ryan Leaf, just poor play. Obviously, again, you get comp to Peyton Manning and you see what he does. It makes you look worse. But 13 touchdowns, 33 interception career ratio, 4-14 career record. Just bust.
Yeah, I didn't have him on my list, but he was pretty darn close. My next one is Jamarcus Russell, who's probably the most well-known and stereotypical bust when you're talking about busts. He played 3 seasons. He had trouble off the field. He had trouble on the field. He got fat and never really was good because he got fat and then he had off the field issues. Yeah, I mean, and he was kind of supposed to be the it guy. And the Raiders also are a team that really haven't been good since that.
No, Jamarcus Russell, he's more of a disappointment because like it all fell onto his shoulders. The work ethic wasn't there. You've got the stories. Yeah. The coaches thought he wasn't watching tape. So they gave him blank film, told him go watch the film this weekend. He came back Monday morning, said, "Yeah, I was watching Blitz coverage," and they were like, "No, you weren't, because we didn't put anything on it." And that kind of encompasses Jamarcus Russell, just poor work ethic, no interest, no hunger.
Was he your number 1? Was he your number 1?
Number 2.
I'm curious if we have the same number 1. My number 1 or my objective number 1. I had heard about this guy before, and then I did some research into his story, and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, no.
That's tough. My number one is Matt Bush. Is that who your number one is?
No, I don't know who that is.
So he was a number one overall pick for the Padres in like 04, 05, like around there, which
Okay.
baseball, I'm a little more subjective to. It's the hardest sport to get to the actual MLB because there's so many levels of minor league baseball and go straight to the minors. So I'm a little easier on those guys. He never made the MLB. He actually got serious, like deep drug problems. He got an assault charge where he assaulted a high school lacrosse player, yelling, "I am effing Matt Bush," and went to jail for years. He chose to stay in prison for an extra time. I didn't hear how much it was, because his alcohol problems were so bad that he chose to stay in there.
Wow.
So a little depressing.
That's depressing.
Talk about a number one overall pick that went from like to the like literal rock bottom. Yeah. I hope he's better now. It said he got out of prison in 2016, the article I read. So hopefully he's better now.
Yeah, for me, so I kind of stayed away from both the MLB and the NHL guys just because unless you're that generational talent, you're not really expected to be a first round pick and come quickly contribute to a winning team or a team.
Right.
So I kind of gave him a little bit more leeway. There's more that can go wrong. My number one was Darko, actually. I think when you factor in that Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh were the three picks after him, when you factor in the fact that he went to a good system, the Detroit Pistons were a very well-run organization.
Right.
He wasn't walking into the Cavaliers. He wasn't walking into a poverty franchise. He was walking into a good team with a good support structure. He just couldn't play. Maybe the scouts got it wrong. Maybe I think there was something about the culture difference coming over from, I think it was I don't think it was Serbia.
Serbia?
It might have been, but wherever he was, whatever Baltic countries from there was culture differences there. But I think the fact that there was no injuries, the fact that there was no off-field, just the fact that he just couldn't play basketball. Mm-hmm. And I think and then you couple in the Hall of Famers that came afterwards. I think Darko is my biggest draft bust of all time.
When you're nicknamed the Human Victory Cigar, and your name is not and your name is not Steve Izzo, it's a problem.
Victory Cigar, I love it. Yeah, but no, I like that. That's a good debate. I'd never heard of Matt Bush, but that was a sad story.
Yeah, I didn't really want to get morbid, but I just had to exemplify why I had him so high on my list.
Yeah, the story's the story. The busts are the bust. There are many ways to do it, but
right.
No, a good pod this week to everyone. Listen in, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if there's any interesting topics you like us to cover, any interesting debate topics you want. Just keep up the content, and we'll talk to you soon. Connor, anything you want to say?
Yeah, if you made it this far in this freaking video, if you made it this far, whether you're listening on YouTube and you're watching me do all these hand motions, or you're listening to me on Spotify, picturing me do all these hand motions. If you've made it this far, there's no reason you can't share this with your friends, your girlfriend, your partner, your husband, your wife, your brother-in-law, his friends. There's no reason you can't show it to them. There's absolutely no reason. It takes 30 seconds. Just like it on YouTube, like it on Spotify, follow us on either or, follow us on Twitter. It takes 30 seconds to do maybe all of those, and we'd really appreciate it. So
thank you.
We're out, and hit him straight this week.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.